Hello all, this video is to show the inner workings of an automatic front loader washing machine with the top and back covers removed. It's going to be doing a full wash cycle, and I've put this online for those that are like-minded like myself that are interested in learning how these things work. I've always been interested since I was a kid about machinery, cars and all the rest of it. I've watched my dad repair machines and cars. He's a qualified electrician. I've watched him do homers on various wash machines and other appliances. So I was always wanting to watch what was going on. This video I'm putting up on my channel for those that are like-minded like myself that want to see this working. Now, don't do this at home. It's extremely dangerous. There's high voltages inside an operating washing machine and there's moving parts. So don't do it at home. That's my recommendation there. Unless of course you're a qualified electrician. Basic skim round the wash machine. Done a video on this before. It's a Beko. That's the model number. It's loaded up with dirty laundry. I'm going to do a full wash cycle. You'll see footage all around the inner workings of this. As you could see, I've got the back cover off, the top cover off. The motor is now visible. The belt is also visible. The pulleys, the spindle and the spider. The shock absorbers at the bottom, which dampen the drum movements, are also visible. So I'm going to switch it on and get this wash done before it's too late. It's live, it's all switched on. Set the program temperature 60 degrees normally. Spin 1200. Load it up the powder, softener, drum. It's all full junk, and I'm gonna shoot junk, dirty laundry rather. Sorry, rephrase that. Didn't sound good, did it? So it's ready to go. Put water's on and power's on. First thing that's happening is water's coming in here through the solenoid. You don't go and touch these wires, of course, but it comes in through here. First wash, the water will go there to wash the powder in. Second, if it was a pre-wash, it would come on this side. And for the softener, there's a siphoning effect method so the softener could drain it over the drum. That's a capacitor for the input for the voltage, the inner voltage. It's a pressure capacitor. It's a pressure switch for the tell when the drum's full of water. So the brains of the machine, set the switches and set all the moving parts here, so extreme caution. I don't have the most comfortable position to sit in, but it's all recorded. Oh, you do see a bit of the pump, by the way, which is good to know. That's the draining pump. That was replaced about, I've had to replace it about, the third pump I think. Shock absorbers at the bottom, say black struts. Zoom in there, shadow. So you can see any arcing. With the brushes. So that's the drum filled. I've actually done a video on this view before, just as the clothes is being tumbled through the drum, mixing with the powder, water. I've done a 3/4 of an hour long video just getting a view from this point. I'll get sort of highlights throughout the wash cycle. I've never done the back view before with it being on, so I tend to record more footage of this side for you. switch tells the brain of the washing machine that it requires more water, so it's starting to put a wee bit more water in. There's also sensors, load sensors and that as well, that the brain which will be in there will make the decisions of what components are to be operated. Solenoid to open to let more mains water in, and the drum to spin with speed to tell the motor when to energise. We've got the interlock, the heater element as well at the bottom of the drum. The front seal. The front seal is held in with that spring that goes round. And it lips over the front panel. Control board, switches and solenoids, I think the clicking sounds are. That's the motor, the motor control board, high voltage side. This is the mains, the electrical supply side. There's that siphon pipe. Connected to the drain hose. Got weights on the top of the drum, and also weights on the front of the drum as well. Concrete weights. So I'm going to just let this machine do all the work, and I'll record some of the highlights for you. I won't make this video too long. If you listen, you might hear the water gargling as the heater element heats up. It's got the spindle blows, get the water level right. Now we'll get the temperature up to 60 degrees centigrade, which is what I set it for. You hear it like a kettle sound. So you can see the armature turning on the motor, and the field windings is the copper coloured windings on the outside. The stator windings. AC motor. My dad knows all the specifications for it. He knows all the terms and electrical terms and stuff. I mean, I got a higher in physics when I was at high school, but that was 35 years ago, so I haven't really used it since. I'm a bit rusty. So, I don't know how well that's come up. I've got to be careful not to touch any of these live wires. So I'm going to set the camera on the tripod at the back, have it pointing into the underside so you can see the struts, the suspension struts, shock absorbers rather. You can see the pump on the motor and the bottom pulley in the belt movement. So I can make myself a cup of coffee and watch this. This is my entertainment, and I like being occupied learning how to watch machinery. And as for those that I like, well, it's not all the time, but I'm certainly in the mood to watch something like this tonight. I'll get myself a coffee and watch this, and I'll put the camera down there and record it for you. It's everybody's brand of, but it's certainly an interest in mine. So I'm just trying to set this camera up for you, and for me as well, because I'll look back on this later. So I'm having to watch. Oh dear. Quite hard to have to zoom out a wee bit. I don't know what's coming out. It's coming out okay, I can't really see it. I'll have to do a test. Yeah, it seems to be alright. So I've got about 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes through of this. So I can maybe a bit more the bottom bit of the pulley for the. Yes, that's good. And you can see the pump at the bottom left. Yep, and you can see the shock absorber on the left hand, on the left of the screen. It's the black bit with the diagonal angle underneath it. The pump's a bit behind here, the grey, you can see the back armature and the coil motor magnet rather, because it's a permanent magnet on the pump motor. fix my bit on the pump motor. The actual drum motor's field wires, field coils. Let's see. My dad will know all the stuff, but he's watching probably what most people would be doing, sitting watching the TV while I'm doing this, so I'm not going to disturb him. So I'll go and get myself a coffee and leave that for you. I'll keep an eye on the battery. Oh. I'll get the spin cycle for you as well. Just make sure don't spill any water or anything like that with this live wires. So the actual pulley on the motor in relation to the size, the diameter of the pulley in relation to the diameter of the spindle is the gear ratio. That's the ratio. So the number of turns will be many times more on the motor for every 1 turn revolution of the spindle on the drum, which basically means it increases the torque accordingly. So if it's X number of times smaller in circumference to the spindle on the drum, that is therefore X number of times slower and X number of times more torque. More torque meaning turning force. And for a drum, you want to have more torque. Sort of like that of a final drive in a car. It's reduction in speed, but a reduction in speed, but an increase in torque. Torque is turning force. The motor will spin many times faster than the spindle on the back of the drum due to the gear reduction, which increases the torque accordingly and proportionally to the decrease in speed. And that's all to do with the belt size pulley in relation to the spindle circumference, and the belt size pulley, the motor pulley circumference. So the ratio is the gear ratio. So the spindle at the top will come so many times slower for the proportionally increase in torque. Call it torque times speed. I don't know if I've got that set up. That'll probably be enough. What I'll do now is I'll just periodically record certain highlights throughout the wash cycle. I won't bore you with all of it, but I'll get like the spins, when it drains the water, I'll put the thing down there, get the footage of the pumps working, as well as draining, and when it's spinning. And I'll get all the footage of the fast spin at the end. That was a bit I always look forward to, is when it done the fast spin. I remember my mum had a hot point washing machine in 1987. I was engrossed in it. It was a hot point 1000, and when I was watching it, I just couldn't wait for the fast spin. It was because back then I think that was it was more of a novelty. Back in the 80s, I think the majority of the machines spun at 800. The new pole washing machine that I had was an 800. But this one was 1000. A spin speed of 1000. That was fast back then. So anyway, I'll record highlights throughout the wash cycle for this. I'll record it for those like myself that are interested in this sort of thing. So the drum bearing is there. That's a watertight seal to obviously, for obvious reasons, keep the water in. But it's to support the spindle. It's only supported at one end. There's no support on the inner drum At the other end it's just open to spin. All the supporting for the inner drum is on the rear bearing, or the one and only rear bearing, which is there. And by the way, my fingers is nowhere near it. On video it looks as though it's close, but there's a big gap between. I wouldn't be stupid enough to put my finger near that. Just so that you're not thinking, oh gosh, he's going to lose his finger. No. My dad drummed that into me at a very young age, that you've got to respect these things. Electrical things and the machinery. They'll take your hand off and won't think anything of it. You won't say, wait a minute till I get my hand out. No, that'll just take your hand right off without even as much as a thought. Get electric shock as well, you've got to be extra careful with that. You can actually hear the water bubbling away. Once it does its spin, once it's done its rotations, you might hear it. Listen. You might have heard it bubbling there. That was the heater element which is in the bottom of the drum doing its job. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that the motor is fixed to the drum, so that of course when the drum moves in the suspension, the motor moves in tandem with it, it moves with it. If the motor was fixed to the chassis of the machine, you'd have to have a belt and jockey system to allow for the movement of the drum. So it's a much easier method to attach the drive motor to the outer drum, and that will move with the suspension, so that the belt will continuously stay on the drum pulley at the back, because otherwise the belt would just come right off. Unless you have a jockey system like that on an auxiliary belt system on a car engine, we sometimes employ that. I've seen that on buses as well, the alternator on a fixed chassis with the belt and jockey system, so that it allows for movement, to compensate for the movement. Because without it, the belt would come off, obviously. So, get a wee bit sore, in a comfortable way and sitting at the moment. Right, so I'm just going to record highlights from now on. Going to get a closer zoom in onto the motor. I don't think I got a good view the last time, so I'm going to try that a bit better. I'm going to give my knees a rest I could. I'll put the light off to see if we can see any arcing. Nah. See, some reason I thought I might get arcing between that and the brushes, but hear the water bubbling. And the motor's got two bearings for the armature, or the rotor. The rotor bearing at the front, and there's a rotor bearing at the back. that's a shock absorber, that black bit. That's the drain pump there at the back, the white bit's the coil, and it's a permanent magnet motor, and it's specification. That was replaced, that's the third one it's had now. I've not actually done a video on replacing it. My dad was replacing it and I gave him a hand, and I've done a video on it. How to replace it, or how we replaced it anyway. So in contrast with motors that are direct drive, meaning that the motor is actually in the back of the drum, that's called a direct drive method. In contrast, this is an indirect drive. It's got a belt. It's belt drive. So just so you know, you do get washing machines that actually have a motor in place of where that spindle is and directly drives the inner drum. But I think they're a bit more expensive. The traditional way is this way. This is the way they done it traditionally. I believe they still make them like this. And the insulation on the side of the drum, the side of the washing machine panels, that foam. Oops. And the foam on there is to get rid of the anti-rumble. So when it doesn't vibrate, you know, when the machine vibrates, it doesn't start to make a drumming effect. Because otherwise it will just make a noise. And all the shape patterning as well. This is to help make this stiff so that it doesn't vibrate with the machine, especially when it's spinning. So it's just to absorb shock waves basically. It's a method of making it quieter. Otherwise the panel would just vibrate. So that's what all this foam is. And not all the machines, the old ones, I don't think the real old ones had that. This is more of a modern thing, I think anyway. They were always shaped metal, but they didn't always have the foam on it, because I've seen inside some, quite a few. Depends on the manufacturer as well, what method they use. Dampen down any vibrations in the panels to stop them from resonating, especially in the spin cycle, because that's when the frequency is higher and it tends to vibrate things, loose things. So you get a nice view of the pump. So that's the connector block for them there. Water fizzing down. That's the heater element connectors there. So as I say, my finger's nowhere near it. It's just it appears a lot closer than it actually is. But that's the heater connectors there for the element at the bottom of the drum. And you'll hear the water gargling quite a bit now because it's getting near 60 degrees centigrade. And sure, it will have a thermometer to make sure it's up to temperature, especially in this cold weather. It'll take longer for the wash cycle because it's got more water to heat up, colder water to heat up. There is actually another shock absorber down there. See if we can zoom that in for you right at the back. It's maybe not so easy, but I can certainly see it with the naked eye. I don't know if I can. There's one behind that one. I don't know if I can. Nah, it's just not really covering it, but there is another shock absorber. I might just make it out behind. What do you think? I'll stay in focus. Come on. Nah, it's just not really coming through there. So that's one of them, but there's another one. Just might be able to make it out. 3 shock absorbers that I've seen on this so far. But on the other side, there's just the one that I could see, which is that one, which is opposite the one that's closest to me. And then, as I say, the one at the back there, or towards the front, behind that is, when I'm looking at it, is a slightly different angle. So it's supported in 3 places at the bottom. And then you've got obviously the suspension springs at the top, where it's suspended suspension, hence the name. And the shock absorber dampers is just to dampen the shock, really. So if it wasn't for them, it would just keep on basically bouncing around. So these shock absorbers absorb that shock, and it only bounces to a very, it limits the amount that the drum bounces basically. All emptying, so we could, the pump is now energised. I'll get a light on if it could without the rushing because there's a little bit caught. So the pump there at the back is now in operation, that is now working. Unfortunately I don't think I really got a good video there, but it will be getting used again. It's just the first empty, there's plenty more to come. Can I get that set up in time? Annoyingly. It's just steady, the drum's turning at a steady speed while it's doing its first drain. I can't remember if there's a small spin on it. I don't really watch the machine that often, to be honest, I just ran in the mood about it. So it's the pump that's running now. As soon as the heated element went off and the water stopped bubbling, I knew it was just about time to empty. It's filling up now. All three things are going on at once. So comfortable. It's easy. I wish this was on a bench or something, it'd be much more. Oh, look at the wee spin, there we go. You see the shock absorbers now. Look at that wire. that's that cycle bit done. So the solenoids at the back are energised, it's letting water come in to this side. Obviously it's just the cold water coming in from the main. And it's going to do the rinse cycle now. I'll try to avoid filming my underwear because I've got a whole load of dirty laundry in there. Well, it'll be partially clean now, I hope, but I'll try to omit that. I'll try not to show that. Anyway, I'm going to just do the rest of the highlights on the spin, and that will be it. Just a bit too uncomfortable to be kneeling down there all the time. So I'll go back, I'll get the footage when it's doing this you know, the final spin. I'll get some of that, because it's if the washing machine was on a much more comfortable setup, but it's just kneeling on the hard kitchen floor there. I ain't as young as it used to be, so it's not very comfortable. So I'll just get the highlights for these. There's a wee bit to go for the wash, you know, quite a long one. It's not actually in minutes, by the way, that's just the count whole timer, it just tells you the sort of stages, not necessarily in minutes. Often it's longer. That's the down for it with clean, fresh water. It's just on the spin cycle. It'll be cold water now, rather than 60 degrees centigrade water. Just for and that clicking is the relays, I think, on the main board. The red, that's the door interlock. Basically, I'm sure that the door will not open. Now we get another rinse cycle now, it's on the empty. And the black deposits on the motor is carbon deposits from the brushes, carbon brushes, so you get sort of that black sooty stuff over the motor housing. I do actually have an old pump to show you when it was replaced. Well, two in fact, it's been replaced twice. I'll show you them. So I've kept the old pumps. This is the one that was replaced recently. The impeller on the motor of the pump, I think that was at fault, spinning. So look at it. It's the pump impeller down there, the white thing. That's the permanent magnet, I think. No, that's probably the coil. The permanent magnets are in that casing, I think. There's that one there, isn't it? Down there somewhere. There's definitely magnets in there anyway. That's the specifications. That was the first replacement one. And you got the filter there as well. The original that came with the machine when it was built. I'd done a video actually when my dad was replacing it with this one. So you could see footage of how it was done. How we done it anyway, and it would probably be of use if I could take this filter off. That's the filter, can't see anything. And there's a better view of the impeller. That's what spins, and that pumps the water. It comes down from this top hose, this top fixture, or top gland. Water will come down from the drum into this top gland, past this filter to catch anything like salts or anything, so it doesn't chew up the motor or clog up the motor. So once the water goes down through this gland, through this filter, the impeller, the pump impeller there will spin the water out of this gland and then out the hose and into the drain. It's easier to show this because it keeps falling over. Right, so the water drops into there from the drum, through the filter, the impeller spins, it gets energised from this coil and magnets, permanent magnet. The water then comes out of this gland, which is connected to the hose, which is in operation now. The hose, which is that grey one, comes out the back of the machine and into the drill. I can't really film it too well at the moment, but it's the best I could do at this stage. So the black pipe going into the pump top is where the water comes in, the inlet. That's going into the top gland, as I was trying to explain. It's going in there. And you can see the grey hose connected to this gland, where it will exit through this pipe. So I can't put the fingers near because it's near the wires, live wires. It has to be high up. So the water, I think no, it has to pump it higher. There's a reason for that, so it doesn't drain. Obviously the drum won't fill, it's got to be higher than the height of the drum, otherwise it will just drain out. So this is why the pipe is raised up to that level. Because if it was lower down, the water obviously would just drain out due to gravity. So it's not going to go up, the water's not going to flow up gravity, is it? So that's why they have it here. When the pump isn't working during the wash cycle, the water needs to stay in the drum, so they put it up. They raise this up higher on the machine. And when it's time to empty, the pump has to lift the water up to this height, through the hoses and into the drain. So that's it operating again. Things to do. Everything's on a flexible hose. There's got to be enough wire, sufficient wire to allow for the movement. Supplying, the wires going to the motor. There's sufficient wires length for that to compensate for the movements. All the hoses, the water hoses, have got to be flexible. That's why it's in that shape, to allow for the movements. The drum casing, the outer drum casing is all shaped that way for stress reasons. It's got to be able to maintain it structurally, because all the loads at the back, there's no support at the front for the inner drums. It's all done on that rear bearing. The outer drum is it's got to be supported at each end, so all the shapes, the moulding, the plastic moulding's all shaped to take into account all the stresses and strains. And of course the chassis of the wash machine, the bodywork has got to be able to, all the fixtures where its position's all carefully calculated out. So that's where all these shapes are and everything. And this is for strength and to stop the thing from drumming effect when the thing's spinning. It's basically an anti-rattle planet design. And the soft insulation there, well, it's foam actually, rather. It's not like really an insulation, it's actually used as foam to dampen because this drum thing the exterior drum might hit the case from time to time, so it's got to have foam there to absorb the knocks. That noise is just the water gurgling through the mains. It's just the vortex of the sound of the water just going through the apertures. And for the final rinse, there's a siphoning effect here. I think, I'm not quite sure. These are rubber hoses, by the way, they're not live, but you don't touch anything by practice. But I knew that anyway. I think it causes a siphoning effect for the softener to drain into the drum for its final rinse. You can hear the clicking. So it's on its final rinse. It's going for the big spin shortly. I'm just going to set the tripod up and record all that. It's just too uncomfortable otherwise. Well, that came out like, I'm just sitting like that, I'm kneeling like that any longer, it's just too uncomfortable, so I can get this set up where he is, and hopefully you can see. Maybe get that as well for you. The pulley, see the pump, shock absorbers, should be alright. As it spins faster, the vibrations tend to, the waves are smaller or more frequent, so you won't really see so much movement, but you'll hear more. As it spins slower, there's more, a longer wavelength, I think, or a shock wave, and it tends to show up more on the shock absorbers, so I think that's what I have to do for this. Is that the final rinse? Can't be. Oh no, there is another rinse. There is there, actually. I'm sure the final spin comes shortly. I'm just going to leave it like that for the next bit. That's no there, I'll just pause it otherwise. So the pump's fixed to the chassis of the machine, that doesn't move with the drum, that's fixed to the chassis of the washing machine and has a flexible pipe connecting the drum to the pump, so that compensates for the movement. And the outlet obviously doesn't move because that's fixed to the chassis, it goes to the drain basically, and else down the sink and the drain. Right, so that's the wash cycle completed. Well, hope it was interesting. So I've got to get the covers, the top and back cover put back on again. The back cover. And it's got the carbon deposits on that side of the motor because they have the carbon brushes and probably belt, the rubber belt particles as well. It's the rubber belt, so some of that will deposit onto there. So the ribbon belt. And the top cover is, yeah, not really much to show really. It's got the date it was built, I presume. Plastic fitments, slides on over the front. Couple of screws, one at that side, one at that side. The front edge clips over. It sort of slides over, and that's still hooked up to the power supply, so keep my fingers clear. But it basically slides over there, clicks on. A couple of screws at each side. The back's held on me. There's half a dozen screws as well. The actual types of screws that were used. Serrated washer type so that they don't shake loose. That's for the back cover. That's the top cover ones. And it's Torex. I can't mind the size. My dad knows the size of it. It's Phillips actually for the back cover. Tell a lie. Phillips for the back cover and Torex for the top. I don't know what size it is. It'll probably be on there, won't it? Can't even. Oh, there you go. I don't know if I could even. If that's coming through in the camera, I could barely read that. It's not very clear. Yeah, whatever. It fitted anyway. What we'll do is just getting it fit. If it does, then that's the win. Just keep that in, put a wee mark on it or something, and then you'll know that next time that's the one to look for. I can't even think the sizes are all worn off, but just go through them all to the fit. That works, so there you go. And the Phillips for the back cover, so. I wonder if it was that in T25 or so there's some missing in here, so it's either a T25 or an M5 or my dad will know, doesn't really matter. Anyway, you get the gist of it. I had this back cover on really, that's it, just one clamps onto the friction holes there, you can kind of see that. Works its way around. And then the top cover slides on, clips over there, and there's two screws, one there and one there. But when you're doing any of that, make sure it's switched off at the mains, the electrical mains, before you do anything like that. It's obviously what we're going to be doing. As regards the pump, to remove the pump, I did do a video on that on my channel earlier. If I remember, I could stick a link in the description. Anyways, tired, that's me, that's enough for the night. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. See how I put it up on my channel. Hope you found it interesting, like myself. And thanks for watching. Okay. I'll see you later on. Bye. Bye.